for our next keynote. You'll be hearing from the CEO at Sprouts Farmers Market, Jack Sinclair. Jack will be interviewed by co-CEO at Omni Talk, Chris Walton.
Oh, man. All right. So, Jack, you've been in role since 2019. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So, I'm curious, what was your impression of Sprouts when you took over? Like, what was going through your head when you were thinking about taking this job?
Well, it kind of takes me back to when I came to the United States. I moved to the United States from UK in 2007 to work for Walmart.
Okay.
And one of the things you do at Walmart is spend a lot of time around the country looking at different retailers and competitors. So the opportunity, and the US is full of some of the great grocery retailers in the world, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But one of the things that was very unique was the Sprouts business. And this is long before I ever got the opportunity to work for Sprouts. This business, which has got a really interesting DNA right from the very outset of the company. And when you walk into the stores, low-profile stores, produce at the back, vitamins and supplements, bulk, it was a very unique assortment. So when you go in there, it's kind of different. And I always admired it from afar, and it did pretty well as a business
right.
long before I got involved in the business. So I was always kind of excited by the DNA of the company and excited by what it was trying to do. When you come from the UK moving over to US, the food system, you open up the whole dialogue about the food system and how it works. And it's still going on, that dialogue right now about what's in our food and how do we make our food. And I think there's some opportunities. And I think Sprouts can play a pretty significant role in terms of changing what we sell and what we put in our bodies. And that's certainly something that's part of our mission as we try to help people live and eat better. But that was what it was from the start. So my impression from the outset was this has got something really real and really interesting, and getting the opportunity to, if you like.
So you were thinking about that food trend right from the start, like as far back as, 7 years ago? 6 years ago?
Well, exactly. I think even before that, when you go into and you look at the products that Walmart, I loved working for Walmart. It was a great company, and I loved working for them. But the food that Walmart sells, in line with most grocery food, had additives and colorings that just didn't exist. They're actually banned in the United Kingdom. Texas are trying to bring in a law to label it right now, which is creating a load of drama in the industry, labeling it exactly like there's products that are banned in the UK and banned in Australia and banned in New Zealand that are still being sold in the US. So I think it's certainly been something that's been on my mind right from the very start and moving over here.
So Jack, you mentioned the merchandising, the unique approach Sprouts takes to merchandising. And I was lucky enough to tour some of your newer stores in Phoenix early last year. And as a former merchant, I was struck by some of the conscious choices you've made and also just the general size of the prototype as well. So can you talk about what it is that makes the merchandising special?
Sure. One of the things I did when I joined the company was spend a lot of time looking at the different format stores that we had. And the ones that were the most productive and the most interesting were actually in San Diego. And there were smaller stores. There were 19 to 23,000 square feet stores. And we'd been building 35,000 square feet stores. So part of it was how do we capture the magic of what the San Diego, which are old stores, V1s and V2s, we call it versions. We're now on version 6 of the Sprouts store, and we've built 100 of them in the course of the last year and a half, or 2.5 years. And that's playing on what the San Diego stores were, making them smaller. And the principles behind our stores are this low profile, so that you can see we're pretty unique as a grocery store anywhere in the world where produce is at the back and people have got the sight line through to produce. You've got meat at the open of the store. Not many people put meat at the start and produce in the middle.
Nope.
And you look and you can see all the way through. So the sight lines and the lighting to make the feeling inside the stores much more open. A lot of grocery stores, again, all around the world, they tend to be up. They're a little bit like rabbit warrens, where they're very tall and you get kind of caught in the middle of these kind of aisles. And it's efficient, but it's kind of a bit restricting. So our customers like this feeling of going into an open store that they can navigate all the way through. So we thought very hard about our vitamins and supplements business, which is really important to us. We thought very hard about maintaining our bulks. Bulk's an important part of our proposition as well in terms of value and portion control. So the store, and the other piece we spent a lot of time on was putting an innovation center in, where we're focused on putting products in front of customers, attribute-based products that are significantly different to what you'll find in any other store. And we're always disappointed if anything on that innovation center literally can't be in anybody else's store. And that we're putting 30, 40 items every month into those innovation centers. So this combination of an open store, putting products in unusual spaces relative to where, so that people can see their sight line, and putting this innovation center together, trying to pull the whole thing together in a very unique format. It's actually been pretty rewarding and exciting putting those things together over the last little while.
I gotta imagine so. And the key thing about that merchandising idea too is it keeps people coming back. It gives them something new to see every time they come in the store. Talk about how that works operationally though, because the other thing I learned is there's a job that somebody's responsible for that area, and it's the chief forager. Is that what it's called? Yeah, we've got a chief foraging officer who sits on the ELT and has probably got the best job in the company, to be honest with you. We've got this vision of a like the foraging pigs and looking for truffles in Slovenia or somewhere like that. This idea of going out and finding new things and different things. And it's a job I want, but I don't think they'll give it to me because we've got some pretty good people doing it at the moment. But that whole idea of finding new and different things, working with America's full of such fantastic entrepreneurial talent, thinking about healthier living, environmental sustainability, and meeting all these founders and new people for that foraging team. I think we can stimulate a better food system and bring much better products in front of the customer. And that's the idea of the foraging team, really working hard to bring new things. And we want to be the place where where brands are evolving and developing, new guys who have got ideas. How can we be the first place to launch them? And then they can move on and be in all the other supermarkets 2 or 3 years later. But the reality for us is we want to be the founding ground for these new, interesting ideas, and we're making some progress on that. And from a customer point of view, the idea of a treasure hunt, that idea I'm going to find something new. When you watch customers going around that innovation center, they're incredibly interested in ingredients. They're picking it up and reading the ingredients, and that's his water. There's no ingredients on you. So you never know.
You never know. So it's probably, anyway, let's not talk about that. The whole idea is the customer is interested in what is in their product more than ever before. They're not happy with just accepting brands that are put in front of them. They want to look at it. They're discerning to a level that's a higher level than it's ever been before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting idea because it's an idea that other people could do, but you have to do it in a way that's, consistent with your DNA too. So I want to talk about that because you've mentioned a lot of things that are very core to what Sprouts is as a brand. So I want to talk about growth. Yeah. Because right now you're only in 24 states, which to me is, smells of major opportunity. But how do you think about growth from a real estate supply chain perspective, also tapping the right customer in the markets where you're trying to build? How do you think about all that?
First of all, when you're focusing a lot on fresh produce as a key driver for your stores, you have to have distribution centers as close to the stores as you possibly can. Fresh produce is 20% of our sales. Organic fresh produce is now up to 55, 60% of that 20%. So getting the speed of the product, getting it from A to B as fast as you possibly can. So we built distribution centers. We built a new one in Colorado, a new one in Florida, a new one in Southern California, and there will be more to come. So that as we build our stores, they're within 250 miles of our distribution center. That's an important part of the supply chain. In terms of where we put the stores, we've got an evolving model which identifies these target customers that we have. The US food markets, people would argue the total number, it's about 1.6 trillion. We're focusing in on 250 billion of that number. So we're ignoring a huge chunk of the food industry to focus in on those health enthusiast customers, those customers who are interested in what they eat, where it came from, the provenance of the food, working with those customers and understanding what it is that drives them, the attributes that matter to them. We're working very hard in that space to make sure that the distribution supports the store. So the stores themselves, we've got a model that's evolving so that the number of customers in a catchment area, it's a very British word, catchment area, that number of the customers in that catchment area is enough to sustain a store. We've got about 450 at the moment. We opened a new one in St. George, Utah last week.
That's right.
Kind of neat. So we're building stores in a lot of new places. We opened one in Wyoming as well. So we're trying to go from sea to shining sea. But there should be about 1,400 Sprout stores in the United States. There's only 450 at the moment. So that's the scale of the opportunity. But there's lots of markets where we haven't got distribution capacity. And it's a little bit chicken and egg. You can't really get the store density until you get the distribution density. A little bit listening to the little conversation.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot of parallels in good retailing. You've got to have density around your distribution center. So that'll be an evolution as we work through other states in the country and try and get to closer to 50 states than 24.
Right. I want to come back to Wyoming in a second, but before I do, so how do you think about the actual site selection? Because one of the things that struck me with your team is they actually said that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the impression I got was that you don't want to be the primary grocery trip. You're trying to select sites where, you know, someone can stop in very easily at Sprouts and do the shopping to pick up the items they want from your grocery store.
Well, the important thing is sites in any retail environment, you want visibility, you want them to in the right place, and you want to be in the traffic flows and watching where the traffic flows are. We're very comfortable being a complementary retailer. We're very comfortable being next to other people because we can play off the traffic, because we're not actually trying to win a trip from anybody. What we're trying to win is a little bit share of wallet, a little bit bigger share of wallet of that grocery spend. And customers, our customer base probably spends about 13% of their grocery dollars in Sprouts. We just need a few more than that. We don't need 100. You know, when you're sitting in a Walmart, you want 100.
Right.
When you're in our business, we're very comfortable being alongside other people, and we're finding that can work. But it also works in an independent space where people can be, it can be a bit of a destination. And customers that are thinking about health conscious purchases who believe in us will travel a little bit to get to those stores as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we talked about supply chain, we talked about real estate. Now back to Cheyenne. Having been in charge of the Target store in Cheyenne at one point in time, the other part that comes from store growth is you have to staff the stores.
Yeah.
What new muscles are you guys having to develop around staffing and training?
Yeah, and it's a constant challenge for us. How do we get what we call sprouties? Because you need to have a little bit of a way of thinking that's a little bit different. And we want people, team members who can give advice, who can talk to customers, and a level of service that we would see is probably higher than some of the efficiency. It's probably not as efficient, but it gives a better level of service, and we're always trying to recruit the right people. So if we're going to build 35 stores this year, which we will, and then hopefully well north of 40 next year, I need basically 75 new store managers, 75 new deli managers, 75 new assistant managers, you add all that up, I need 550 Sprouties in the blink of an eye. So there's a lot of training going on, a lot of development going on to try and reinforce the culture of the company as we evolve and move around the country. It's a little bit easier in places like San Diego and Los Angeles and Phoenix, where people know who we are. Mm-hmm. When you go to markets like Aberdeen, New Jersey, or markets like Philadelphia, as you go to different markets and we're having to work hard, and we're going to be moving people around a little bit, the ones that want to, so that we take the Sprouts culture from one place and put it into the other. That's one of the biggest challenges of growth for us. Right. How do we get the right team members in front of our customers, so that they're reflecting who we want them to be and who they want to be. A lot of the people that join us kind of believe in our purpose, help people live and eat better. And when you watch our vitamin department leads and the people in there giving guidance to customers about what supplements they should have, what things you should do, healthy, natural products they should deal with, pain medication, and how you can deal with immunity as opposed to flu. We don't have a pharmacy.
Right.
And we're one of the few grocers that just don't have pharmacies, and we don't want pharmacies. We want the vitamins and supplements department to help people navigate their health needs as part of that process.
Right. So you mentioned you don't have pharmacies. The one thing we also haven't talked about in this conversation as of yet is digital.
Yes.
So how important is digital to Sprouts?
Well, I joined the company in 2019. There's a lot happened in this world since 2019, and inflation and COVID and all. When I joined the company, I remember at my board meeting, at the interview with the board, they said to me, "What about digital? What do you think about digital? What's going to happen with e-com?" And at the time, it was 2% of Sprouts sales. I said, "Don't worry about digital. Not going to happen." Just keep.
How'd that go over?
Yeah, experiential. We want people to see the produce and feel the produce and engage with the product. So after about a year of that, when the sales went from 2% to 15%, not because I was planning it, because the customer took you there.
Yeah.
And that we've held that at 15%. It's quite unusual. That clearly it went up during COVID, but we've held it post-COVID. And as I've got increasingly excited about our partnerships, we partner with Instacart and DoorDash and Uber Eats, and they do a great job for us. We've grown the business up to 15%. We've held it at 15%. And we're working very hard about an omni-channel environment where the customer can choose. The customer will choose how they want to engage with us, whether they want it delivered, whether they want to pick it up, whether they want to go in the store. And that's an important part of our thinking, that the key to the assortment, the foraging team, the fresh produce, one of the things that's very encouraging about our digital business is that fresh produce is the same percentage of the basket on digital as it is inside the store. I don't know many retailers who are able to have the confidence and trust of the customer that they'll buy your produce from someone else picking your apple rather than picking your apple yourself. So we're encouraged by the digital space, and we want to play the omni-channel game as aggressively as we can as we evolve our loyalty program.
Yeah. So, the phrase that keeps coming to mind for me when I talk to you, listen to you, is there's a lot of dry powder in the keg. You're only in 24 stores. You've got the digital, customers getting acclimated to you digitally. The other part of that too is you to this point have never had a loyalty program. That's something you're just starting to get off the ground. Where is that right now for the audience? Well,
we've worked pretty hard on that through the last year, investing a lot of money to get the customer experience around the loyalty program really clear. And it's surprised me quite how much money and time we've had to do to make it work so that the customer has a seamless experience. And that's been something we've made a lot of progress on. We launched it in a few markets early in the year. We're going to be in all stores by the end of careful what I say. I think it's the end of October. Don't quote me.
Okay.
So we'll be at the end of October. We'll be in all stores. And then what's happened, what we've been encouraged by is the number of sign-ups. Customers seem to appreciate it, and the amount of scans that go behind it. Those are the measurements that we're looking at. And our challenge going forward will be taking that information and taking that data from customers and starting to be much more personal. As people go through this health journey, there's a lot of diversity in how they think. Some people are gluten-free. Some people are dairy allergens. Some people are vegan. Some people vegetarian. Some people want grass-fed beef. How do we take all of that information, become more personalized about how we make it come alive for our customers in both how we promote and both how we communicate? And we think we can do something. The aspiration for us would be to have a very all-embracing loyalty program going forward that really takes into account all those different customer dynamics that I talked about.
So are you Jack, going back to what you said at the beginning, like kind of the food is medicine trend, for lack of a better way to put it, are you thinking that becomes part of the personalization strategy here in the long term?
In the long term, we'll have to, our whole strategy around the health enthusiast customers, whether digital or non-digital, whether e-com or loyalty, and the loyalty program is, do we get our merchandising right? That's number one.
Okay.
Do we get our stores in the right place? Are we getting our real estate right? Are we getting our supply chain right? We've got work to do on our replenishment to do that even better than we're doing it at the moment going forward. And do we get our marketing right? Those are the 4 buckets that we work on behind these customers. And the more data we've got, the better we're going to get at that.
All right. Well, let's get you out of here on this then. In the last minute or so we have, macroeconomics. It's been the talk of the show. A lot of people are talking about it. What impact is it having on you particularly, given the unique position that Sprouts has in the market, and how are you trying to prepare for whatever ultimately comes your way?
Well, first, all the way through the macroeconomic environment, fresh produce is a really important part of our business. It's an important part of the health journey. Our pricing on produce will be really aggressive, and we'll always be there where we're discounting produce versus the rest of the marketplace, and organic produce even more important going forward. As this evolves, interesting, I was with in the organic week last week. Farmers are needing encouragement to grow more organic. So the dynamic is we're encouraging our sourcing in the space of both meat and produce and lots of other products. How do we get them producing more organic? And there is some pressure in the economy in making that work. From a customer point of view, we believe our health enthusiast customers are, if you're a vegan, you stay vegan to spend no matter what the price of gas is. And we get ourselves in a place where we're confident that our customer base is going to respond. And we've got to watch inflation. We've got to make sure inflation doesn't drift to a point like it did during COVID, where people were thinking about their purchases differently. And we're watching that closely. What's going to happen to inflation? I don't know. What's going to happen to the economy? Not sure. But we're very clear about our strategy and trying to be focused very much on our target customers and serving their needs as best we can.
Well, I, for one, am excited to watch what lies in front for all of you and everyone at Sprouts. So, Jack, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, very much, Chris.